The FT reported 2 days ago that businesses would be hit with an annual £15 billion bill for filling in customs forms for trade between the UK and the EU in the event of a no-deal Brexit, according to a British government paper published on Monday by Revenue and Customs. In its no-deal impact assessment, the British Tax Authority detailed the cost to business to complete all the paperwork for the 215 metres consignments of goods crossing between the UK and the EU, assuming trade remained at 2017 levels. Interestingly, HMRC's figures are likely to be on the low side as they did not include the additional costs of complying with new VAT procedures for services companies, which dominate the UK economy, or for new VAT rules that would apply to parcels following a no-deal Brexit. They also exclude the one-off costs businesses would incur in preparing to fill in customs declarations. But what the FT's report does not include is another massive headache for business. If Britain hasn't secured a deal to leave the European Union as the clock ticks past midnight on October 31st, billions of data transfers could be thrown into legal limbo with all the financial implications it brings with it. And there are a lot given that Britain is considered a global data hub. Though not as visible as lines of trucks backing up at ports, disruption to data would affect more of Britain's economy, 4/5 of which is services, not goods. To avoid heavy fines and lawsuits for breaching the EU bloc's strict privacy laws, the majority of UK companies that rely on data flows from the EU must submit a mountain of compliance paperwork. Those efforts have accelerated in recent months as the risk of a chaotic departure grew. The estimate of the extra administrative costs to business in the event of no deal contrasts heavily with Boris Johnson's claim to the recent Conservative conference that the UK could save £1 billion a month by leaving the EU on the 31st of October. Massive technical and costly headache. Data transfers on its own is huge. It covers anything from customer information for holiday bookings to human resources files and insurance claims moved between subsidiaries of multinationals. The EU has some of the toughest rules in the world for protecting personal data, including the right to be forgotten from search engines. The emergence of cloud computing means packets of data are constantly on the move, making it far harder to keep track. Bloomberg News reported yesterday that companies can compile sets of rules governing the information that flows across borders within their organization, and then have them approved by a data protection authority. This can cost as much as £250,000, $305,000, and take years to draft. Instead, many have opted to copy and paste standard contractual clauses covering every cross-border data transfer they can find. Smaller firms may not be able to afford or implement the safeguards, or even be aware of the issues. A study published in August by academics at University College London said when an accord on data protection between the US and EU was struck down by the European Court of Justice in 2015, one single company was forced to apply 2 million standard contractual clauses, they said. Anti-money laundering and terror financing checks by banks could also fall outside the law in a no-deal, industry lobby group UK Finance has warned. Andrew Solomon, a senior associate at law firm Kingsley Napley said, "Most companies are aware they need to do it, but they've been hoping common sense would prevail and they wouldn't have to do it in the end."